From the moment you were old enough to understand words, the people around you started filling your head with ideas about money. Your parents meant well, your teachers meant well, society meant well, but meaning well and being right are two completely different things. The financial advice most ordinary people grow up believing was never designed to make them wealthy. It was designed to make them manageable, compliant, easy to predict. Work hard and you will be rewarded. Save your money and you will be secure. Avoid debt at all costs. A good job is all you need. These phrases were repeated so many times across so many generations that most people never stop to ask a single question. Who benefits when ordinary people believe these things? Because here is the uncomfortable truth that changes everything. The wealthiest people on earth do not follow these rules. They never did. While ordinary families saved money in bank accounts, quietly losing value every year, wealthy people were borrowing strategically to build empires. While ordinary workers stayed loyal to companies for decades hoping for security, wealthy people were building systems that made money whether they worked or not. The rules you were taught about money were not lies told out of cruelty. They were lies told out of ignorance, passed down from generation to generation like family heirlooms that nobody ever stopped to examine. And the cost of believing them is not small. The cost is measured in decades of financial struggle, missed opportunities, and a retirement that never quite looks the way you imagined it would. By the end of this video, you will see 10 of those lies clearly for the first time. And once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Lie number 10. Money can't buy happiness. Now technically, that sounds wise and emotionally mature. But in reality, millions of struggling people know that financial stress destroys happiness every single day. Money may not solve every emotional problem in life, but lack of money creates problems powerful enough to ruin relationships, mental health, sleep, freedom, and peace of mind. A person drowning in debt does not experience stress the same way a financially secure person does. Someone working 2 exhausting jobs just to survive does not experience life the same way as someone with savings and stability. Yet society constantly romanticizes financial struggle as if suffering somehow builds character. People are told money isn't important, while billionaires spend their entire lives obsessively trying to make more of it. And that contradiction alone reveals the truth. Wealthy people understand something ordinary workers are rarely taught early enough. Money is not just about luxury. It's about options. It's about freedom. It's about control over your own time and your own future. Because when people finally become financially secure, one of the first things they often experience isn't greed, it's relief. Lie number 9. Go to school, get good grades, and you'll be financially successful. For generations, millions of young people were taught that education alone was the guaranteed path to stability and wealth. Study hard, get a degree, and life will eventually reward you. And decades ago, that advice actually worked for many people. But today, millions of graduates are discovering that a diploma no longer guarantees financial security the way it once did. Student debt has exploded into one of the largest financial burdens in modern American history. While wages for many degree holders have barely kept up with inflation, some young adults now spend decades paying off loans for careers that never provided the income they were promised. And perhaps the cruelest part is that many students signed these massive financial agreements before they were even old enough to fully understand long-term debt. Meanwhile, some of the wealthiest people in the world built fortunes not because school made them rich, but because they learned how money, business, ownership, and leverage actually work in the real world. Education absolutely matters, but the uncomfortable truth is that traditional education often teaches people how to become employees, not how to become financially free. Lie number 8. Working harder will automatically make you rich. This may be one of the most dangerous financial myths ever created because it sounds completely logical on the surface. After all, hard work is important. Discipline matters. Effort matters. But if hard work alone created wealth, then construction workers, nurses, factory workers, and people working 2 jobs would already be millionaires. The reality is that millions of the hardest working people in society are often paid the least, while some of the wealthiest people earn money through ownership, investments, and systems that continue generating income even while they sleep. That doesn't mean hard work is useless. It means hard work without strategy, ownership, or financial knowledge often keeps people trapped in survival mode forever. Many ordinary workers were taught to exchange time for money their entire lives without ever learning how wealthy people make money differently. Rich people often buy assets. They invest. They build businesses. They create systems that multiply income instead of depending only on hours worked. And once people finally understand that wealth is usually built through leverage, not endless exhaustion, the entire idea of working hard starts looking very different. Lie number 7. Saving money alone will make you wealthy. For decades, ordinary people were taught that the secret to financial success was simple: spend less, save consistently, and eventually your bank account would grow into security and freedom. And while saving money is absolutely important, the problem is that modern inflation quietly destroys the value of idle cash over time. In other words, the money sitting in a normal savings account often loses purchasing power faster than it grows. That means millions of responsible people spend years carefully saving money, only to realize life became more expensive even faster. Meanwhile, wealthy people rarely leave large amounts of money sitting still. They buy assets that grow: real estate, businesses, stocks, investments that increase in value while inflation rises around them. And this creates one of the biggest financial divides in modern society. Ordinary workers are taught to save money, while wealthy people are taught to grow money. The difference between those two ideas changes everything, because one strategy focuses on protection, while the other focuses on expansion. And in an economy where prices rise every year, simply saving money without making it grow can quietly keep people financially stuck forever. Lie number 6. A stable job is the safest path in life. For decades, millions of Americans believed loyalty to one company would eventually lead to stability, promotions, retirement benefits, and long-term security. People spent entire careers working for the same employer because they believed corporations would protect workers who stayed loyal and worked hard. But over time, the economy changed dramatically. Companies began prioritizing profits, automation, outsourcing, and shareholder value above employee loyalty. Suddenly, workers who gave decades of their lives to corporations discovered they could still be replaced overnight with one email, one budget cut, or one economic downturn. Entire industries disappeared faster than previous generations ever imagined possible. And the terrifying reality is that many people now realize their stable job was never truly stable at all. It was simply temporary security controlled by forces completely outside their control. Meanwhile, wealthy individuals often build multiple income streams precisely because they understand relying on one paycheck alone can be extremely dangerous. In today's economy, stability no longer comes from loyalty alone. It comes from adaptability, skills, ownership, and having financial options when the unexpected happens. Lie number 5. Credit cards are helping you financially. Credit cards were originally introduced as tools of convenience, but over time, they quietly became one of the most profitable systems ever created. Because once banks realized people were willing to borrow money for everyday life, an entirely new economy was born. Today, millions of Americans use credit cards not for luxury, but for survival. Groceries, rent, emergencies, gas, medical bills. Many people now rely on borrowed money simply to make it through the month. And the dangerous part is how normal this has become. Swipe now, pay later, minimum payments, rewards points, cashback offers. The entire system is carefully designed to make debt feel harmless, even addictive. But while ordinary people focus on temporary convenience, banks quietly make billions through interest payments accumulating in the background year after year. And because compound interest works against borrowers the same way it works for investors, many people slowly become trapped in cycles of debt that feel almost impossible to escape. Credit cards are not automatically evil. Used carefully, they can absolutely be useful tools. But the uncomfortable truth is that many financial systems profit the most when ordinary people remain permanently dependent on borrowed money. Lie number 4. Rich people are just luckier than everyone else. This is one of the most comforting lies society tells itself because it protects people from asking deeper and more uncomfortable questions about how wealth is actually built. Yes, luck absolutely plays a role in success. Timing matters. Opportunities matter. Being born in the right environment matters. But many wealthy people also understand financial systems, ownership, investing, taxes, networking, and leverage at levels most ordinary workers are never taught. While millions spend their entire lives focused only on earning paychecks, wealthy individuals often focus on acquiring assets that continue growing in value over time. And perhaps the biggest difference is how they think about money itself. Poor and middle-class families are often taught to avoid financial risk completely, while wealthy families frequently teach their children how to use calculated risk to create opportunity. That mindset difference changes entire generations, because wealth is not always about who works hardest. Sometimes it's about who understands the rules of the financial game earlier than everyone else. And once people realize money operates more like a system than a reward for effort alone, the illusion that wealth is just luck begins falling apart very quickly. Lie number 3. You need a lot of money to start building wealth. This belief has quietly stopped millions of people from ever even trying. It convinces ordinary workers that investing, ownership, and financial growth are things reserved only for people who are already rich. So instead of learning how money compounds over time, many people wait endlessly for some imaginary future moment when they finally feel ready enough to begin. But the truth is that wealth is rarely built through giant dramatic moves. More often, it grows through small, consistent actions repeated over years. The problem is that most people underestimate how powerful time really is. They focus only on how little they can invest today, without realizing that consistency matters far more than starting with huge amounts. Wealthy people understand this deeply. They know the earlier money starts working, the more powerful compound growth becomes. That's why many financially successful people begin building assets long before they feel financially comfortable. Because they understand something ordinary workers often discover too late. Waiting to feel ready is one of the most expensive financial mistakes a person can make. In money, time is often worth far more than the amount itself. Lie number 2. The rich don't pay taxes. This is one of the most misunderstood financial beliefs in modern society, because the truth is far more complicated than most people realize. Wealthy people absolutely do pay taxes. But what separates them from ordinary workers is that they often understand the tax system well enough to legally reduce how much they owe. While millions of employees earn money through salaries that are taxed immediately before they even touch their paycheck, many wealthy individuals earn through businesses, investments, real estate, and assets that are taxed completely differently. They use deductions, write-offs, depreciation, trusts, corporations, and legal financial structures most ordinary people never learn about in school. And because financial education is rarely taught deeply to the average person, many workers spend their entire lives inside systems they barely understand, while the wealthy quietly learn how to navigate those systems strategically. The result is that two people earning similar amounts of money can end up keeping vastly different percentages depending on how their income is structured. And once people realize the financial game has different rules, depending on how money is earned, they begin understanding why wealth inequality keeps growing generation after generation. Lie number 1. If you work hard and follow the rules, everything will eventually work out. This is the biggest financial lie millions of people were ever taught because it sounds hopeful, fair, and morally correct. And for a long time, many ordinary Americans truly believed it. They believed the system rewarded discipline, responsibility, loyalty, and patience. They believed if they avoided trouble, worked honestly, and sacrificed enough, life would eventually become stable and secure. But over time, millions discovered something deeply painful. Hard work does not always protect people from a broken economic system. Entire generations followed the rules exactly as they were told and still ended up drowning in debt, struggling with housing costs, delaying families, postponing retirement, and living with constant financial anxiety. Meanwhile, some people who understood money, ownership, investing, and leverage early enough built enormous wealth, while others stayed trapped working endlessly just to survive. That realization creates anger, because it forces people to confront an uncomfortable truth about modern life. The system does not always reward effort equally. Sometimes it rewards information, sometimes it rewards access, sometimes it rewards ownership more than labor itself. And once people finally understand that reality, they stop blindly trusting financial advice simply because society repeated it for generations. Because the people who become financially free are often not the ones who work the hardest, but the ones who understand the rules of money before everyone else does.